everybody. It's a meeting of the Finance Committee. It's Wednesday, September 1st, 2021. This meeting is being audio and video recorded. Do I have a motion to open?
Open.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are in session. I'd like to just start off by saying pledge of allegiance before we get going.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so on the agenda tonight, we have 3 reserve fund transfers. The first one that we'll cover is Special Project Manager. And the amount requested is $337.12. It's going to be transferred to line item 0101. That's 010122-511400. The amount requested will be used for the following reasons. There's a prior year salary item in this current year, and there is no line item to retro back the person's pay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Now, the next one is from the town planner. The original amount requested was for $500, and that's been changed to $2,000. Do we have an explanation, a reason why it was changed from $500 to $2,000?
So the selectmen talked about it. Essentially, when we changed the department, it was board-based. I'd call it board-based, where it was based on the planning board. We didn't really have a full-time planner. They had no office supply line item at all. And once we made, town meeting allowed us to have the full-time planner. In retrospect, there were some other things that we should have done to help facilitate that position that we never had before. So 500 didn't seem like enough when the selectmen talked about it. They didn't want him to have to keep coming back for more stuff. So where he's kind of filling in an office that has had nothing, and also they're looking for him to consider some new technologies. Our GIS is very outdated. That might need more a reserve fund transfer later, because when we've looked at some prices for that, it's a couple $1,000s anyway. But they just wanted to make sure he had enough to get whatever he needed, because he's filling in that spot that he never really.
Who is the town planner?
His name is Doug. Yep.
Okay, so again, the amount requested is for $2,000, and it's for office supplies, new town planner, and new clerk.
I make a motion. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. The next one is in regards to the temporary, is it temporary planner or town planner? Is that a typo on here?
Temporary.
Temporary planner for the amount requested of $767.43. And this is for a prior year salary item.
This one had, it's kind of like a in-between.
Yeah, essentially, it's, my understanding is that it was the last week of the fiscal year, which is always a split payroll. Those were both for him. He was interim in both of those positions. He was getting paid through the end of the fiscal year, and just through an error in payroll in that split week, he didn't get paid. So we are allowed to pay a prior salary, but we do need to have a funding mechanism to be able to do it. So.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. I believe that's it for reserve fund transfers for tonight. Next on the agenda would be any old business that anyone has to bring up to discuss. Any members have anything, old business? No?
Well, I have a list here of, I'm not even sure what it is. It's dated July 14th, and it says, "School till next meeting." I have no idea if we ever even went back to it. It looks like it's anticipated year-end balances in all the accounts or something. it's school related, never mind, it's school related. So I don't think we got back to it. But we don't know how that ended.
So you're looking to get an update on the school, the end of year balances for the school?
I'd be interested in getting
Yeah.
an update on what they've been up to, but I
Yeah,
don't know that
absolutely.
I'm privy to any of that stuff, so.
Absolutely.
So you want the school year-to-date expenses till current point?
For last year, I think,
Oh.
right?
Oh, the end of FY '21. Okay.
Yeah, you're looking for the end of the year.
That's easy. I'll email it to Kathy. Okay.
I don't know if this counts as under old business, but I'll mention the selectmen at their meeting last night,
Yes.
the memo. So they read the memo from the finance committee relating to wanting to have a meeting to talk about a representative town meeting or change. And so they are fine with having a meeting and we can work through some dates. I don't know if you want to do that right now and come up with a few dates, or we can do it offline, but I did want to mention that they're open to having a meeting and kind of talking through everything.
Yeah, maybe we'll do it, not in this setting, because not all our members are here.
Yeah,
So maybe we can just collaborate,
yeah, work with me offline and.
try and figure out what date is gonna work best for everybody.
Okay.
But I think it's, I watched the selectmen's meeting last night on the YouTube channel.
Yep.
Specifically the part where they talked about our letter to them with regards to the representative town meeting. And, I heard what David Warner said, and I agree with him. I think any change to our current format should have to, go through town meeting. I think the voters should have a say in that. I just don't like deciding things for people. So I think it's something that definitely needs to be discussed. And if there's any other options, we'll discuss it. But I just think starting the conversation is good.
Yeah.
I know I've heard some chatter, some people nervous. They see things, they hear things, and they think that, oh yeah, the finance committee is going to do this and that. And it's not about that. It's just we want to start the conversation and see what other options are there. But ultimately, I'm always in favor of the will of the people at town meeting, and it should always be that way. So if that was going to get taken away, in a new format.
So this is all basically about bringing more people into the town hall, into the town meeting.
Oh, I know.
And we very seldom, very often, we don't have hardly enough for a quorum for a town meeting.
Well, yeah, you're right about that.
If we dropped the amount of people to make a quorum, I think more people would be showing up because they probably think that something is going to be sneaked through, so they don't come in. People, the only time we have a big, large amount of people in there is when a certain department, any department, I'm not going to choose anyone, has an agenda. Then they'll flood the place with people. And as soon as their subject is over with, they're gone. They can care less about the rest of the
Well, I know, that's what brought up this whole conversation.
Exactly.
Was that, so I think the conversation definitely needs to be had.
Yeah. But I think, that was a good idea, like Fairhaven has that. That can
Yes.
turn on you too. I think if we eliminate how many people we have to have at a quorum, people will start saying, oh, they might be trying to sneak something through here, and everybody, people that never show up might show up.
Well, I think all that stuff should be on the table and
Yeah.
in discussion, and, if we were ever gonna make a change, I think,
Yeah,
getting some
town bylaws,
input,
that.
getting some input from other towns that implement that now, like Fairhaven, Dartmouth does it, having some representatives from them, come and talk to us and say, how's it working out for you?
I've talked to a few people in Fairhaven, and they're not really satisfied with how their town is run like that.
Well, that's why we're gonna have a conversation and discuss it.
So we did have an article for the forum when Brian was here, I think it was in 2018, to reduce the quorum, and it didn't pass. Or maybe it didn't make you know, I just remember he brought it up and it's kind of, to your
Well, we
point,
did
got
drop
people
the ball at
nervous.
one time, didn't we?
We
That was COVID,
dropped
I
it due
believe.
to COVID,
Yeah, that's right, it was
emergency.
temporary.
Yeah, yeah,
And
because
then,
of the COVID.
Yes.
yeah, and then I'll just mention, I'll reiterate what you're saying. The point here is to have a meeting to discuss it and to talk about the options. I know I've heard chatter to people at home are hearing this and they're nervous. There is definitely a very lengthy process if there was to be something to, if there was a change, it would require a town meeting vote, it would require a ballot.
Absolutely.
So it's not something that could just be discussed and changed.
No.
For those at home who are worried,
Yeah.
you know, you're looking to have a discussion, the selectmen are always open to having a discussion, especially with the finance committee if there's something that's pressing that you want to kind of get through. But it's not something that at the meeting we can just decide and now we're representative town meeting like that. There's a town meeting vote that would have to take place and I believe it's a 2/3 vote at town meeting and then also a ballot. So there's quite a lot to it.
Didn't we at one time announce the town meetings over the phone? Our alert thing?
Yeah, we do, yeah. And I think, I'm hoping we've opened up a Facebook page and we've been sharing a lot of the content from the town website. Also last night too, if you watched, we got approved to use some prize funding to update our website, which is badly needed. But between that and our Facebook page, we've been sending a lot of notifications out and I think it's really been receptive to a lot of people who may not have paid attention to that stuff before. So we're hoping with that too, town meeting, we do the reverse 911, but then posting it and sharing it on our social media.
On the bulletin board for the town hall.
Yeah, but I think between that, I mean, I don't know how many people come in through town hall.
Well, no, I
We
mean,
get people, but-
across the street, like in front of the.
Oh, yes, the sign, yeah, we've been working to update that a lot too, so hopefully we reach more people and they're
Just to remind people that, you know, there is a town meeting, and, you know, and most people that complain about stuff that's going on, is people that don't show up to the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just try to get more people into the meeting, yeah.
So we'll work offhand,
Yeah.
offline and.
Yeah, I think that'll be a good idea. You know, just to reiterate to anybody out there watching our meeting tonight, you know, the finance committee, we just make recommendations. We don't set the rules, we don't dictate anything. We just make recommendations and then that recommendation, you know, gets voted on at town meeting right now. That's how it's set up. So, you know, what the finance committee says or recommends is not final verdict per se. You know, but a lot of that stuff gets misconstrued, and you know, people get a little crazy sometimes. You know, they start worrying about stuff that they shouldn't even be worried about. You know, like you said, any change like that is going to be a long, drawn-out process to even get to that point.
So it'll probably be the 2/3 vote at the town meeting, and then the following election year will be on the ballot. So we're looking at 2 years at the earliest.
And speaking of town meetings, the selectmen they discussed at their meeting last night too, to set a winter town meeting in January 10th. So you will all be involved in that, and the hope for that meeting is, in our last town meeting, and in general, you know, we had a packed town meeting, we had a lot on there, and I think in general we typically do, and we had a lot of bylaw changes on our agenda, on our warrant for town meeting last year. And the selectmen are really hoping to try to do a poll where we can plan, I mean, especially where there are these things kind of going on. We know that we have a lot of bylaws that are being discussed right now to be updated. And so if we pull and kind of focus on that in a separate meeting, then the annual town meeting can really focus more on the budgets and the finances and any capital articles and things like that. But it'll be mostly the money in the budget, and anything that's unrelated is kind of pulled off and discussed and vetted outside of that. So the January town meeting is great. It gives us some time because as far away as that seems, it's not that far away when we have postings and things like that and discussions that need to take place to really vet through a lot of this stuff. So I'll be getting you guys a schedule of, you know, like when we're going to open the warrant and close it and things like that so you guys can plan for it. But they did set it for January 10th. I believe that's the date. It's just off the top of my head. And I think that's a great date too because, you know, we have a lot of stuff when we have a fall town meeting, people don't realize the back work that has to take place for all the finance people in town hall. And even if there are no spending articles, we still have to include this in the tax rate recap. And it has to be approved by the TOR, and then we have to use those figures as part of the billing and have time to get all the billing out. So being able to move it to January is helpful for us too, so that we don't have to worry about any of that aspect. That can all get taken care of offline, and we'll be able to really focus on these articles. And then it's far enough ahead of the budgets that we're not kind of intermingling things. So I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, no, I do like that idea. I think not having any of the spending issues is going to be a lot better that way. Because when we have the annual town meeting, we have all these complex bylaws, because they're really complex. To get an explanation out to the voters, sometimes it's time. It takes a lot of time to do that. So I think that's a good idea, separating the two.
And it takes a lot of time for us to go through the budgets, and then by the time we finish that part, we're going to look at the actual articles that are unrelated to the budgets, like that, like you're cramming it into a meeting or two because you just don't have the time. So, and this stuff is very important, and it should be well vetted, so.
Hopefully we'll be able to get a quorum. And then
We'll
go
get a
back to the
quorum.
original discussion, if it's just gonna be bylaw voting, that'll probably be pretty difficult to get a quorum, I think. We'll see.
I heard that so last time they had trouble with the fall town meeting, they had a problem.
Well, a lot of these bylaws can be important.
They are all important, of course,
Impact,
but
they can impact
try
a lot
to
of
sell
different
that
things.
to the public.
Well, they can impact a lot of different things, and all of a sudden, you're like, hey, how come this is going on? Well, it was voted on as a new bylaw at the meeting. So it's, all these meetings that we have in town are important. So I encourage all residents to attend and participate, because that's where you have your say, and that's where if you don't like something, you don't agree with something, you have a chance to voice your opinion, and it doesn't get any better than that. That's the best. That's the way things should work. So under new business, I was just going to discuss, because I went to the last school committee meeting, and they did discuss some of their budgetary things. So Kristen Flynn was talking about some grants that they were applying for. So during her meeting on August 17th, she indicated that $232,000 would be returned to the town. And I think of that, if I'm not mistaken, $85,000 would be going to the sped prepaid. That was the max amount that they could put to their stabilization, I guess. That makes sense.
So they can prepay special ed tuitions, I believe, for like the first quarter. So whatever the total is for the first quarter, that's the most that they can prepay from FY21 funds into FY22. And then they did do a transfer into their special ed stabilization account. It was probably in the $80 range, because they can only have 2% of their total net school spending in that account, and so it's close to $400,000, I think. I don't know if we have that number. But yeah, so they're at their max, which is great that we have the money there if we need it, and I think the thought process is always, if they use it, we can always replenish back up to the max.
And they also had ESSER 2 grant approved for $304,000. And then they were applying for another grant for $688,000. So I guess that's pending.
That's, I think it's, I don't know if it's still part of ESSER 2, but they were doing one of the ESSER 2 grant, the $300,000 now, and then I think the 600 comes up next year. But they're,
yeah, I think you're right on that.
and but they can spend it through 2024.
Not 100% sure.
So I think they have until 2024 to spend all that money, so they can kind of spread it out.
Yeah, so these are questions, if as finance committee members, if we have questions, or if you think of you have a question, jot it down for a future date when we actually meet with them, because I think this is going to be important this year. And I'll reiterate that to the other members when we meet again. And I'm gonna try and attend as many of their meetings as I can. And one thing I wanted to discuss tonight under new business was people taking on the role of a liaison for a certain committee, which we've done in the past. Like I've been the liaison to the school department in the past. I think Sue Delgado was the liaison for Old Colony, that kind of thing. Unfortunately, we don't have a full complement of members here tonight, so we'll probably have to hold off on assigning that. But just kind of give that some thought, everybody, and think about maybe what department you might want to be a liaison to. We've always had somebody for the DPW.
It was me, and I'm happy to stay with it.
Okay. Bob St. Jean and I usually did our schools. Like I said, Sue Delgado usually did Old Colony. I'm trying to think if we had any other liaison assignments. Oh, yeah, that's right, you were the golf, yeah.
I mean, it's best to move them around, maybe we should move them around, the liaisons.
Or we could have, I'll ask Bob if he'd be interested in, if we're gonna have one for the, police, maybe police, fire, EMS, all together. Maybe he'd be interested in doing that. So we'll have to think about this for, next time we meet. There was one other thing I wanted to bring up under your business, and I can't think of it off the top of my head. Exactly. Kathy, do you have the minutes from July 14th and April 14th?
I did send them out. I have one extra copy.
Yeah, because I don't have, that's the one thing I didn't print out before I left work today was the copy of the meeting minutes. Okay, thank you. All right, yeah, so we have some minutes to vote on and approve. One set is from April 14th, 2021. In attendance was myself, Bob St. Jean, John Howcroft, Eric, and Gail. So we have a motion.
Second.
Okay. Right. All right, so I'm in favor of it. So all in favor? Okay. So the minutes pass. The next one is from July 14, 2021. I was in attendance. Bob St. Jean was in attendance. Pete Benoit, who's not here tonight. Bob Ferraro, Eric, and Gail were also in attendance. Motion?
Second.
All in favor? Okay, minutes pass. We don't have a meeting set right now. So Kathy, if anything comes up, or if any more transfers come up before the end of the year, I'm sure we'll be notified, and we'll get together. But I think we should think about the next meeting maybe being the meeting that we talk about collaborating with the Board of Selectmen in regards to the representative meeting. Maybe we can get a date set before the end of the year for that, before the winter meeting. Because I think we should probably meet on that before that. Because once we have the winter meeting, we're going to be getting right into our budget season. So it's going to be like nonstop right after that. Because we're not going to have a lot of time. I mean, those weeks they go by really quick. And before you know it, that's like the deadline's already here. Which is good because that means winter will go by quicker.
Hopefully it's mild.
So if we actually talked to them before that meeting, maybe we can get that put on the meeting. And then maybe have it for the next year.
I know Selectman Warner also brought up maybe even having a committee that could study it as an option too. If we didn't want to kind of push it forward necessarily, but wanted to still look into it as an option for town meeting. But yeah, I mean, that's essentially what that winter town meeting would be available for if we wanted to.
I think that would be a very good idea.
I kind of thought, and I don't know the legality of it, but I kind of thought there would be a series of public hearings.
Yes.
Come and talk. Maybe that committee would head up those
Yes.
public hearings.
There's definitely a hearing required as part of the town meeting article portion of it that I know of.
Yeah, to bring in representatives from a neighboring town that utilizes that format.
And to have somebody that can answer the questions that would arise, you know, from the public. I mean, that's way down the road, a long ways from that, yeah.
Does anybody else have anything they want to bring up under new business?
Motion to adjourn?
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn. We have
Second.
a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, this meeting is adjourned.